I'm going to begin this video by saying, like a lot of my other videos, this one's going to require a bit of a nuanced mindset. So I would appreciate if you listen all the way through before leaving a comment. Let's get into it. The point system. Probably the most divisive single mechanic in this game that impacts the whole game and how it's played. The old versus the new. Which one's better for zombies? You might be quick to answer that by saying the old system. But what if I told you? No. I think the point system is just fine the way it functions with the earn points per kill instead of earn points per shot. Linearly increasing point costs for perk purchases are better than the stagnant cost that the perks had in the classic days, and salvage is definitely a welcome addition to the point economy. And while I do think the old point system might work in this new game, I do think it's important to give this point system a fair shot and kind of explain how the system works and why it's done like this. And here and there, I'm going to be referencing CJ Santa's video about the point system. There's a couple things I'll bring up as to what I liked about it, but also a couple things as to what I didn't like about it. But the guy, he seems cool. Like, go check out his channel. We can disagree and just live in harmony. Like, we can coexist like that. And I would like to continue the conversation like that. And if anyone disagrees with me, I'd love to hear about it as well. So just want to put that up front. No hate to the guy at all. Always keep things civil. And I want to at least give him a little bit more proper criticism than some other people around here. Even though that's not my only focus, it will be constructive. So please go check him out. He's doing great. This your boy Clam Rally, and welcome back to the freaking channel. I think I can confidently say, and I think mostly all of us can agree on this, that the core draw to zombies starting way back in World at War is the potential to play to reach a higher round. And the way to do it being engagingly fun enough to want to try it again the next time after you die. It's the progression of the game mode that always had me coming back. Shoot gun to get points, to spend on stuff, to help get more points to survive, etc, etc. That's like the most bare bones explanation you can give to explain the cycle of zombies in, I would say, any zombies game. That is the sense of progression from round to round that people come back for. The keystone feature of the feel and progression of zombies is the fabled point system. But before I get into why I think that Black Ops 6 and its point system are severely misunderstood by a majority of this community, I want to explain exactly how the old and new system works. I think sometimes around here we often forget to give things a fair shot in comparison to stuff that we've already had, and I want to try to provide that in this video, and that's usually what I like trying to provide in my videos. And I can say with almost 100% certainty that you will agree with my sentiment by the end of this video. Let's get into it. Okay, here's how this old system works. When you shoot a zombie with a single bullet, not kill, when you shoot, you get 10 points per bullet. If you land a final blow on a zombie, meaning this bullet kills the zombie, in the leg, you get 50 points, in the chest, you get 60 points, in the head, you get 100 points. And when your final blow is with the knife, you get 130 points. This is pretty much how the system has worked from World at War to BO3. I think there might have been a few tweaks here and there, but the important part is that when you shot a zombie, you got points without having to kill it. To be totally honest, I'm gonna skip over Black Ops 4 because I feel like it deserves its own video, but I think the discussion that's happening right now is more so pre and post BO4. Which one is better? That's what people are talking about. The way this new point system works in Black Ops 6 is if you kill a zombie normally, just in the chest, you get 90 points. If you kill a zombie in the head, you get 115 points. And if you kill a zombie with a melee, you get 105 points. Now, I think the points were a little bit different in Cold War, but the important part is that both of these games, you didn't get points when you shot, only when you killed the zombie. That's the most important part. Both of these systems boast really good and really bad things for their respective games, but I think it's probably really tough to kind of mix the two together. And while there's obvious similarities between the two game modes, I think there's a lot of subtle differences between these two that not a lot of people pick up on, and I think the point system has a lot to do with it. But why is the old system so good? Let's get into that. It rewarded clever play. To take a quote from CJ Santa's video,
you see, with the pistol, it gives the players who are smart the opportunity to min-max the number of points they can get on very low rounds. You could just shoot a zombie with your bullets in the chest until they die, or you could shoot the legs, which does less damage but gives you more points, and then knife. which really provided more points for the player.
I 1000% agree. You can be clever with your shots and knife to get an edge on the amount of points you have in the early rounds. That was just straight up rewarding you for being clever, like in its purest form. And when you started picking up more powerful weapons to face the higher health pool zombies, you usually kept a weaker gun or a point gun to farm points to then upgrade your other gun, to buy perks, to pack a punch, etc, etc. If you were smart and willing to like put in the time to like shoot the zombie and really min-max points, you can get all your perks and weapons upgraded by around even like 15 to 20, sometimes even earlier than that, like if you're really min-maxing. It really was a nice way to make the player feel like they were progressing nicely throughout the early game. But here's my problem with that. Historically, I've loved zombies for a multitude of reasons. But there was one thing in particular that I really did not like doing. High rounds. The reason I don't like high rounding in the old games is because, to be honest, I think they're incredibly boring and just not engaging at all. Not to say that someone can't find that fun. Clearly people grind the high rounds of the older games all of the time. And when they do get these crazy high rounds, I'm like just in utter awe with how dedicated someone can be to get those insane rounds. Like nothing short of absolute respect to these guys. Like y'all are insane. I could never do that. Me personally, I just don't really like old game higher rounds for many reasons. And I actually do think there are legitimate flaws in the system, with the biggest one for me being the point system. And I want to clarify, when I say high rounds, I'm not talking crazy like 1, 2, 300. I'm more so kind of just talking like when you start getting to the high rounds, like where the progression ends and then the high rounds start. Usually between like 35 or 40 to 50. I would say what the average player considers a high round. Like if I'm just trying to hop on a game of Kino, right? The most common old school zombies map. Kino or like Derice or something like that, right? I'm going through the map like normal, and by round 25, guys, I have every single thing that I need and more. All my perks, both my guns pap. What else do I need to spend my points on? Absolutely nothing, except for when I go down and have to rebuy only my perks. And even then, I have way more points than I know what to do with. The points that I've saved up eventually start to have no value anymore because I'm just given the points only by shooting and not even killing, only by shooting. But realistically, by round 25, I'll have like 18,000 points. The value of the points is gone because I have enough right now to buy my perks back twofold. And mind you, I'm on round 25. At round 30, I have 33,000 points. Like actually, what the hell else am I gonna spend my points on? Claymores? Grenades? No. I think you guys are kind of starting to see my point. If we're rewarded for getting things done early, then we'll have nothing to do in the later round because I'm literally just done everything so early. And you wind up having this giant pool of points to use on nothing. You could spend your money on traps, but it only seems like the most viable strats are like camping strategies. Mind you, I'm very well aware there's more than just camping strategies, but at least for the point system, you had so many points even when you went to buy those traps over and over again. Hell, at least in Black Ops 2, there was other things to go after like buildables, but you didn't even have to spend your points on those. And that's just what became boring to me. But in the later rounds, the whole draw to zombies in the first place to get to a higher round, they sucked. Here's the perfect example of what I mean by this. You have to respin the mystery box a bunch of times to get thunder gun ammo again when you run out of it because the thunder gun doesn't make drops. And if traps and the mystery box are the only thing I can spend my points on when I'm only at round 32, I just don't want to do that. I'm done with the game at this point. Like, not to say that round 32 is a low round of zombies by any means. Like, that's a decently healthy game of zombies. But I had been running around with my player maxed out for like 10 rounds at this point. I'm done. I don't want to have to keep spinning the mystery box for the most viable weapon. So for me, that's where the fun ends. And that's where I want to transition into talking about the new point system. The old point system wasn't exactly sunshine and rainbows like people are saying it was. And to imply that it had little to no flaws is looking at it a little bit too rose-tinted. I think people tend to think Treyarch is just doing things for no reason, but each decision that has been made has really changed up the game to make it more engaging to get to higher rounds, which is the draw to zombies in the first place. Play a fun game with engaging progression to get to a higher round. Now there's a bunch of different reasons in Black Ops 6 as to why high rounds aren't as fun, but I don't think points is the reason for that. If it wasn't clear already, I think the early games' progression was just a little too fast. But in BO6, since the progression is kind of stretched out a little more, it feels like I'm progressing further and I'm not getting bored as fast. And I am fully aware that high rounds are supposed to be this kind of coveted thing that only a very small percentage of people get to. But if you can add like another 10 to 15 rounds on top of the progression that Black Ops 1 already had, then I think you're golden. I think that's a good thing. I think the average higher round in Black Ops 6 is much more engaging than the higher round in Black Ops 1 or 2. And even though there are definitely tweaks that need to be made to this system for sure, that I will be getting into, Treyarch has listened to our feedback and made progression feel better while also making the game feel difficult. People are saying, oh, just put in the old point system. I don't know why they don't do it. Here's exactly why. If you got as many points as you do in this old point system, nothing would feel rewarding. There's a reason they capped out as many points as they did on each zombie, because they wanted to innovate in other areas, with the perfect example being augments. I would say these are wonderful additions that most people also agree on saying they're great additions in this game. But I'll go one step further. They are the greatest thing this game mode has ever seen, and I hope they continue to innovate on this system. This is the best thing they could have added to the game to give it more variety with how you play it. And keep that word in mind, because we're gonna come back to it later on. These augments are a core part of this gameplay that I think some people just kind of see as like an optional thing. No. These are insanely good. And while some of them are a little niche and some of them do kind of suck, I think overall they're really good. But you gotta build into them right. And I will tie this into the point system shortly. You may not realize it, but you can do like builds in this game that have a huge impact on gameplay. I have this one build, right, where I can augment Cryo Freeze. Every time Cryo Freeze procs, it slows regular and special enemies and has them receive more damage. You can major augment into it by making it so that when the zombie that is frozen dies, it leaves a cloud around it, slowing the other zombies down that are inside of it. And you can add a minor augment to make it so that your bullets do more damage to those frozen enemies. But it doesn't stop there. Deadshot Daiquiri has a major augment which increases critical point damage, and a minor one that increases damage done to the armored parts on zombies. And you can go even further beyond by getting Elemental Pop. This perk by itself triggers a random ammo mod without putting a mod on your gun. But when you put a mod on your gun, you can tell Elemental Pop to be like, hey, I'm gonna put this major augment to make it so that the only mod that's procced is the one that I put on my gun, Cryo Freeze. And you can put a minor augment to slightly reduce the time between your augment procs. And that's just the augments for 2 perks in this game. Guys, this ain't your grandma's Kino der Toten anymore. Like, this is a whole different game. The goal of zombies isn't to just survive anymore. Like that's part of it, but like, that's not the only goal anymore. And it hasn't been like that for 10 plus years. Like, we're in some new territory here. And I feel like people are trying to compare it so much to the old system, but there's just so many differences that it's just not the same. I think that most games with this similar style are successful when the game progression makes me want to play the game longer. And that's probably my biggest praise of this game and my biggest criticism I can give to the older games. But things are just different now. Let's go back to how the augments affect this point system. Being this powerful has to come with a cost, and the points/time to get those points is that cost. The game might feel too easy if you can get all the abilities together at once early, which is why I like the increasing price for perks every time you get another one. It's not only the perk you're buying, it's that mixed with the augments with the perks that also make you more powerful. Perks affect other perks. It's not just buy a perk and then it just has its own abilities. You can combine things together. That's why it costs so much. If I had to guess, they probably did want to try out an old point system in this game, but with all the stuff that they added in, they probably felt that you were getting stuff a little too fast, so they wanted to stretch it out. And I think that's okay because things are more powerful. You're no longer just handed these points in the later rounds. You have to like earn them. And I think that makes the game more engaging and more challenging. And I think it feels more natural. So basically what I'm saying is points have more value. you want to have all these perks and be very strong, you gotta save up the money to do so and commit to a build to be this strong. The idea that they're stunting variety in the game by making you stick to one gun for an entire game to facilitate a camo grind because of this point system, I think that's just kind of totally misrepresenting how this game works. And I'm gonna bring up this video again by CJ Santa. Again, no hate at all to you at all. I really like this video, but I think a little bit more could have been put into why the point system could potentially be good.
But BO6 takes it even further and makes the point system even worse. You see, because of the amount of bosses that the game spawns in, and how little points they drop when you kill them, it causes players to waste their ammo and not even be able to get it back in a lot of ways for the mid-rounds.
My argument for this is that while I do agree more points need to drop from these elite enemies for sure, it's not like that's any different than the old games. In Black Ops 2, when you kill a Panzer, you get 100 points. Are you fucking serious? I fucking never realized that back in the day. At least they changed it in Black Ops 3 to where you get 1500 points per Panzer, and you can't rebuy ammo for your box weapons. You can in this game. You can just refill your stock. That is the difference between that and this.
And the most egregious change of all, making it to where melee kills give you less points than headshots.
I agree with you on this 1000%. There's no reason that I should be able to shoot a zombie from afar and get more points than getting into the fray where the crowd is. Fully agree with you there.
The new point system is terrible. It's strangling the player base into having less and less variety in what they can actually use and how they can change their strategies mid-match. Remember how easy it was being able to change what gun you wanted mid-match? All you had to do was just spin the box and say, "Oh, I want to switch to that," and just do it. Now you're sunk in so deep with whatever gun you've chosen early game that it feels you have no real option to change, which kills variety and replayability more than you may think.
And this is a little bit more nuanced because I fully agree that things really do cost a whole lot. And I do think some things can be changed about that. But you are way more powerful than you were in these games, so it should cost more. And I think that the ratio of power to cost is closer to being fair here than a game like Black Ops 3. And I think being able to switch on the fly like that would make things far too easy. Progression of your guns in this game is way deeper than progression in the early games. So I think it should cost more and take longer to earn. But here's the thing, I don't think one is better than the other. I think it's just more of a preference thing. And to talk about your point about the variety, the progression and variety may not be more so like gun to gun, going from a weaker, more point-based gun to a powerful gun, but more so progression with how you earn the powerful stuff. The old system may have given you points with the guns you used, but I think we don't actually give enough credit to the things that are actually useful in this game, like things like grenades or other lethal equipment in the later rounds, but they aren't incredibly overpowered. In the older games, these things served almost no purpose. Like in the early rounds, sure, but like after you get past a certain point, you're not using grenades anymore other than to maybe make a crawler. In some cases, equipment can be better than a gun, and that's what we should want, more variety with how you play the game. Also, traps actually give you points in this game, which is another thing that spreads those points out in other areas rather than solely on a gun, which encourages more things to be used on a map because it will add to your currency like it never did with the old point system, even though the zombie despawn distance has to be increased. Hell, even kill streaks are another option to use. They have their own big problems on their own, admittedly, but they also add to the variety. Like, the variety is there, but it's in other areas instead of just progressing your gun, which is definitely something to dislike if you prefer the old system. But you can't say there isn't variety anymore. It's just in a different way. And with the guns, you can use just as many, if not more types of guns in this game to get to higher rounds than in the old games. That's something that killed variety. only feeling like I could use a wonder weapon and not being able to use things like shotguns or snipers once I got to the later rounds. Because the point system is somewhat fixed, they can focus on making other guns more powerful, like shotguns and snipers, that were historically ignored. And I think that's much more of a problem than just, oh, it's one little problem. I think a whole weapon type not being used that much is a big problem. Like, who looked at the L96, the Stakeout, the HS10, and guns similar to that and were like, oh yay, let me keep these guns. You don't need a point gun anymore. This is a whole new style of game. But here's the thing, right? There's going to be tiers and metas to weapons no matter what. And I think it's important in a game like this. Like, who's gonna take the CZ75s to round 35? Like, that seems like utter hell. But in this game, I gave it a try with the 9mm Makarov pistol, and I could get to round 35 with relative ease. It started capping out about there, but like, look, I ain't ashamed to say I ain't a high round player, but I'm above average when it comes to, like, I would say the regular player. So I just wanted to give it a try, and I did it like first try. And it's not like ARs and SMGs are just not a part of the meta at all. Like, they have larger ammo pools, so you're able to proc your ammo mod more often, I would say. Like, the fucking PP has I'm slinging almost 400 bullets downrange with this big drum. And that's not to mention the Deadshot Daiquiri augment that makes it so that if you hit a critical point, it has a chance to put the bullet back into your magazine. Like, that itself is also good in boss fights. Like, if you have that on an LMG and you're just hitting crits, a bunch of ammo is just gonna go back into your mag and you're just gonna be able to keep shooting. Like, that's probably really, really good. You guys can probably tell at this point, I played a lot of Destiny back in the day. But I think you're starting to get my point here. Like, there's more variety and more nuance than just, oh, this gun doesn't give me points, why would I even use it? Like, there's plenty reasons to use other guns as well. I think the only thing that's making it seem like it's not as much variety is the loadout system. That is 100% where I agree with you, where I really don't think we need this loadout system. It ruins things like the mystery box and the wall buys. The way you get the gun is when you load into the map and you get all these guns that are in the map. You don't just walk in with one. I really don't like it, but I just don't think it has anything to do with making the point system worse. You are overall more powerful in this game than you used to be. So I think the point system needs to be the thing that balances that out. Or at least, that's what I enjoy about it. That's kind of what I disliked about Black Ops 3. Every gun had this insane potential with the AATs that costed almost nothing compared to how powerful they were and how far they could take you in the game. But in this game, you actually have to save up points and salvage to earn the power of the perks and ammo mod augments. And they managed to make the AATs feel not crazy overpowered while also making them really good. You have to actually think about what you want to spend your points on this game. Am I going to buy a door? Am I going to buy a perk? Am I going to buy armor? What am I going to do here? As opposed to just getting Jug first thing and then just getting the perks in the sequential order that you usually get them in. This game's zombies hosts the biggest difference between it and multiplayer / Warzone that we have ever seen. There's just so much in this game that gets overlooked just to get criticized for not being like the old games, but that's the point. This is a whole new game. It needs to be viewed and criticized at least somewhat differently than the old ones. The fact that they give you the option to buy ammo in this game and give you all these tools to work with and still make the game feel difficult is truly wonderful, and this is exactly what we should want from it, which is why I'm going to list out a few dire changes they really should look into, not with changing the point system back to the old one, but adjusting what they have here, because I think the numbers need adjusting. And I truly think this will make people feel a lot better with this point system. And although I just spent the last however long glazing this point system, there are a ton of changes that I think could and should be made to make the player feel like they can actually catch up to the difficulty ramping up as the rounds progress. In the old games, I felt you got way too many points early on, contributing to a large discrepancy with the idea of points versus round progression. The point system felt a little exponential. In this game, the discrepancy is a little bit more to my liking, but definitely is a bit on the lower side, meaning you don't make enough points to catch up with the rounds progressing. For this game, the answer I think would be to just simply give slightly more points in every area of the map. Killing zombies should give you 115 points just to kill. Headshots should be 150 points. and melee kills should be 200 points per kill. I don't know why they went and changed that. Like, it was so dumb. Melee kills, you really got to get into the fray, so it should be worth more. And Melee Macchiato would see more usage with that change for regular zombies, but I think they really need to increase the speed of the animation on its own. Like, when you don't have the knife out, just punch real quick, because you have to put your gun away anyways. Buff that. Nukes should give you 1,000 points, and bonus points should give you 2,000 points. Like, come on. 400 and 500 points? Are you fucking serious? Just give us more points with power-ups. And while I'm on this topic, make the power-up spawn just a little more often, so it can also help impact the point pool a little better. Traps should give you 50 points per kill, and equipment should give you 100 points per kill instead of 90. And man, I wish they had barriers, dude. That is one thing I loved about fucking the old games. The barriers were awesome. You needed a few more points to get Pack-a-Punch or to get a weapon from the box. Just rebuild the barrier. Like in the downtime, you feel me? Realistically, these ain't fucking coming back. But if they did bring them back, then make it 20 points per board. I think that would be amazing. Now, the costs of things. This is a big one, and I don't want to tone them down a crazy amount, but then again, I recognize the frustration of when you go down and it being so hard to get back up, especially in co-op. So for Pack-a-Punch, keep tier 1 as a 5,000 points. The next should cost 10 grand. The last one should cost 15 grand for a total of 30,000 points instead of 50,000 points. That should help with the desire to switch a gun mid-game by almost cutting the price of the Pack-a-Punch in half. Have perks start at 1,000 instead of 2,500 and have each of them go up by 500, just like it does, for a total of 22,000 points instead of, I think it was like 34,000 points, which also makes room for more perks to be added as well, like they're gonna do. Special enemies like Manglers give at least 1,000 points, and elite enemies like the Abomination in the Amalgam should be 2,500 points, so that if you can pair double points with it, you can get enough to Pack-a-Punch level 1. And back to power-ups real quick. Give us a power-up and call it half off, where for 30 seconds, everything on the map is half of its original price. I think that would do great. I think we should have rare salvage back, not in terms of it being a separate currency than common salvage, but adding in a higher rarity being worth more, like 150 or 200 salvage, to add to the singular salvage pool that we have now. And one more thing, probably the worst offender I would say is in this game is the cost of armor plates. Just to refill my plates, 10,000 points? Are you actually fucking kidding me? That's crazy. Make that 1,000 points, if that. But that is absolutely absurd. I think these changes would make it so that newer or less skilled players can still stand a chance to get back up if they die, while also keeping the difficulty of the higher rounds. There's actually a whole host of things I would change about the higher rounds, but you guys should watch my boy Code 6 Beluga's video on that, because he speaks about it much better than I ever could. But in terms of points, I really think this system could be given more of a chance, and not just, going back to the old system. And here's the thing, right? Perhaps the old system might even work in this new game. Now that you have more things to spend on, maybe that'll give more value to your points because you can actually spend them on something as opposed to just keeping them in your inventory just sitting there. But that one, it's a little tough thinking about that, but I mean, it could work maybe. Like I'm at least smart enough to realize that, like, hey, maybe they can figure out some way to put this old system in this game. I mean, they are game developers after all. And I think we forget that sometimes. And I also think we forget that we are also not game developers. So some stuff that we say could work might not even work at all. We just have to at least recognize that, hey, we don't have that level of knowledge sometimes. Like all the stuff that I just said might just be totally awful for the system. I just have no idea. But I just think the main point in this video was to kind of give this new point system a fair shot. But I want to kind of end this video on this point here. And I think this is the most important point that I will make in this entire video. Yes, I clearly like this point system, and I'm excited to see what comes next. I like the idea of needing to think before I spend my points on something with this limited point pool. But it is so clear that the majority of people don't like it. All I wanted to do was give my impressions on it to maybe get people to think a little differently on it. But here's the thing. If nobody likes this point system, don't bring it back in the next game. Innovate differently. Even though that is directly against what I would want with the game, the majority of people should get it, man. I looked at your poll asking about the point system going in future games, and 95% of over 5,000 people saying they want the old point system is crazy numbers. Shit, even on the poll that I took, most people wanted the old system. 65% of people, it's 515 votes, mind you, but most of them said they would rather have the old point system. So I think it would behoove them to try to innovate on that old system to kind of make it feel like the more classic game. Because this is clearly a different game. I don't think that's bad, but clearly a lot of people do. And like, they're a fucking video game developer. Like, they can find a way to innovate the old system. And while I do appreciate the changes they are making in this game a lot, it won't hurt them to go back in some areas. I would much rather have a happy community playing this game with elements that they like in it than dividing the community more than it is right now. So if after this game's life cycle, you guys still feel the same way about this point system, I hope Treyarch can find a way to make the old point system work. And that is the sentiment that I'm almost 100% positive that most people will agree on. And I know some of you guys are going to sit here and say, oh, I'm just sitting here glazing this game and I'm just sucking it off. Well, I'm sorry I'm having fun and you're not. Again, no hate at all to my man CJ Santa. Please go give him a visit. I like this conversation that's going on in the community right now. I like bouncing different ideas about it off a bunch of people. And just remember, as always, stay mature and let's keep things civil around here, all right? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of agreeing to disagree in the comments, but let's just make sure to keep it at that. Agreeing to disagree. Let's not attack anybody. And guys, it's the holiday season, so let's enjoy what we have and let's let them cook a little bit. I think we can all agree that they're doing a pretty damn decent job with the game and how it's launched. They're making changes for this Season 1 update. They're shortening the vermin rounds. They're lowering the mangler spam. You know, things like that, they are definitely taking into account what we're asking them for. So I think we can try to trust them just a little bit more. I know it's tough sometimes, but just a little bit more. They cook sometimes. I am just like nothing but excited for this fucking map. I'm not even gonna cap. I'm so excited for this map. And 4 elemental swords, guys, we're fucking eating good. I'm not even lying, we're eating so good. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm gonna be using that dragon sword or that raven sword. That kind of looks like Goku Black's scythe. But thank you guys for sticking around to the end of this video. Please leave a comment below. Let me know what you feel about this. I will make a response video reacting to your comments and talking about things that you think about. And man, 10K's coming up, guys. Woo! I am in the middle of working on my 10K special, but I don't know when I'm gonna have it done, but I'm working on it. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you all. You guys have been so amazing. And that's it. Your boy Clambo is out of here. I'll catch y'all soon. Peace.